Um, yeah. So our topic today, giving yourself permission to do self-care. And I think I'd like to probably start a little bit around the topic of, just kind of giving some examples of, what self-care looks like because self-care is not easy, especially when you're driven, you're a leader, you have a business or you're an entrepreneur, and you have a lot of goals that you want to accomplish. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that it begins with just noticing and awareness, having an awareness about yourself, how you're feeling emotionally, mentally, physically. Are you drained in any way? And if you are, what are you going to do about it? So having a plan.
Having a
Um,
plan.
I, I think self-care has to have a plan. Um, and it's not something you can just pull out of a box and do because a lot of times people don't have the first clue about what that looks like in their lives. And so we do have to figure that piece out.
Sure. But can we talk just for a minute about what is self-care? Like, what is that and
Mhm.
how do we go about how do we know if we're doing it properly? You know.
What do you think, Tim? Do you know have
Well,
any
what's
clue?
interesting is I think when we talk about adulting, right, we care for everybody else and their dog, sometimes very quite literally. We adult and we do what's necessary to do to make sure that we take care of our responsibilities at work, we take care of our responsibilities at home, we take care of our financial obligations, we take care of the people in our lives who we're responsible to help take care of. That might be children, that might be uh, older adults in our lives. So we care for everyone else. But often what happens is, especially if you're in what we call the sandwich generation where you have uh, uh, children and you have older parental figures who adults that you're helping to care for. Um, we take care of all of those folks and all of those responsibilities, but we don't really care for ourselves. Which means then that ultimately um, we find ourselves in a situation often where we're burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say?
Yeah, I think we can easily get burnout. I think we have to recognize, our resources and whether we have them. And so by resources, I mean like it could be spiritual, emotional, mental, social, right?
Yeah,
Especially for introverts, because if you're an introvert and you try to hang around people and be social, and you're already drained, you're not going to be doing good self-care.
exactly. Exactly. So, so caring for self, I guess, really on some level is just taking the time to stop and notice what your needs are
Hmm.
and actually work to see that those get met and sufficiently.
Yeah,
Would you say?
yeah, having an awareness, stopping and noticing. I think the other part of it is being able to pace yourself.
Hmm.
So, do you feel exhausted? Like just tapping in and noticing. What
Mm-hmm.
does exhaustion feel like? Well, for me, it feels
Mm-hmm.
like I'm irritable. I'm sleepy. I
Mm-hmm.
might have to take a nap. Exhaustion looks like not being able to focus. I was there today. I just couldn't focus. It seemed like on anything. So I had to go do some self-care, and I went and got a pedicure, quite honest. The pedicure helped me to relax because quite honestly, I got a massage and got my feet done. And it felt so good to do something for me. And I finally was able to breathe. It was like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
that's good. Yeah. And so once I was able to do that, then I was able to do the next self-care thing, which I found out after that I needed some more. which was watch a movie and just chill and
Okay.
not be on task. Yeah.
Right. Right. We watched the movie together.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, so the thing though about self-care for me is that as a self-professed human doing, that is, trying to get recover from that, trying to be more a human being. Um, what happens then is I start to feel guilty,
Hmm.
um, that I'm not doing something when I
Uh-oh.
am, in point of fact, relaxing, as if relaxing and taking care of myself isn't doing something.
Hmm.
That makes
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It can not taking care of you can definitely make you feel like you feel guilty. Um, but I
Well,
don't think
actually, it's
I
the other way
have that.
around. Taking care of myself
Oh,
makes
not
me feel
taking care
guilty.
of you. I said, yeah.
No, no,
Taking care
taking
of
care of
yourself
myself
feels guilty. Oh, I
makes me
get you.
feel guilty. Yeah, I feel guilty for doing that.
I don't.
Of course
Because
not.
it's a need. I think you have to recognize it as a need. Like I don't have trouble meeting my needs. And so part of that is just recognizing. Sometimes I have to stop and just say, okay, what do I need in this moment?
Mm,
And if it's I'm already wound up and feeling blah, you know, uh, then something's wrong, means I need to slow my pace. And that's why I said pace is so important.
sure. Pace is very important. But here's the thing. Okay, so can we go here for a second? Because what's true is, uh, I am an oldest child, right? I'm the firstborn in my family. You are the last born in your family.
Hmm.
You are the youngest child in your family or growing up, right? And I think oldest children tend to have an extra burden, placed on us, because the assumption is that, we are sort of, de facto parents to everybody else, or we're responsible to be the person who is responsible,
So you're saying
even.
child orientation has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, yeah, when you birth order, right?
Mm.
So when so I that it seems like maybe that may have something to do with that. I could be wrong. I'm sure there are probably, many youngest children, who are out there going, no, that's not how it worked. you know but I think the other thing is that what is emphasized in your household growing up, right?
Hmm.
So, in growing up in my household, self-care was not a thing. I mean, we didn't call it that. I remember vividly, if my dad walked in the house and we were watching television, right? My brother and I, he would say, "Why aren't y'all doing something?"
Wow.
That you've just been sitting in front of the idiot box, he would call it, all evening, all afternoon, and there's stuff to be done. There are chores that have to be taken care of. You need to be reading a book or something, doing something to improve your mental state,
Wow.
to grow mentally, academically. You need to be doing some homework. Do something.
Hmm.
Maybe even just go outside and play. Do something.
Wow.
And when it looked like I was doing nothing. So
Mm.
now I think doing nothing really, I experience this guilt around that. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one. Maybe I'm the only one. Because you say you don't have that. That's not an issue for you.
No, I think it depends on culture a lot because the culture of your family and stuff has a lot to do, with whether or not you take care of yourself. I think that's just the truth. Um, I think I grew up in a family that where, I didn't see my mom take care of herself enough. And so it was very pertinent that I learned how to do it. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
And because I didn't see it, I was like, well, that's not something that I will do often in life.
Mm,
So I got to figure it out.
okay. So you kind of took her example of not doing the self-care thing as I need to do
Mhm.
the opposite of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And
I saw it
nobody
as a
did were you criticized for doing self-care?
well, I don't think I learned it young because I just didn't have those kind of skills to learn it. I think I learned it probably in college and then on as an adult because I think when um it comes to meeting your own needs and you kind of have to have a certain level of awareness and notice whether or not, you're actually doing that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think you have to be a certain age sometimes to do that, to be able to notice if you're taking care of yourself.
Mm, a certain
Um,
age,
well, maybe a certain level of maturity, put it that way.
level of maturity. I've obviously not gotten there yet. I'm still working on it. No, but I mean, good point. I think you make an excellent point there. I think that there is it looks like we have uh, Ms. Jackson saying, I agree about the self-care element not being a part of our upbringing. Often in the Black culture, self-care is seen as a luxury that plays second, third fiddle to taking care of necessary obligatory activities.
Mm.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. That's my point exactly. Um, and that's what my dad was always because he kind of grew up going, you know, as a child, he had two or three different jobs.
Mm.
Uh, and so yeah, so anyway, the issue was struggling to survive. And I guess I see where she's coming from because what's true is that if in point of fact your issue is survival, really often you don't have a whole lot of time and not a lot of value is placed on caring for self because
Mm.
we got to eat, we got to have a roof over our head, we got to do some do that kind of thing. And so the question then becomes, so when you're in a place where it's no longer about my survival, right,
Mm.
how do you then come to a place where you're able to actually take care of ourselves? Because here's what's true. I think when we don't take care of ourselves, we shorten our lives,
Well, yeah, if we
quantity
don't
of our life and
rest,
the quality of our lives.
if we don't rest and we don't have downtime, I mean, I think the quality of your life diminishes.
Well, yeah, and your health, right? Can we just keep
Hmm.
it real? So my dad had his first heart attack, at age, I don't know, 50-ish, somewhere in there.
Mm.
And I think because he, one, he had some other issues. Obviously, we all got stuff. But I think part of that was he didn't really value taking care of himself to the degree that probably he should have. Um, Always very busy, always very accomplished. He did amazing things. Don't get me wrong, uh, one the best dad on the planet from my perspective. I mean, I wouldn't if I would never want I wouldn't want a different parent at all. Both my parents were amazing. But the point is that we're all trying to grow and become better versions of ourselves. So
Hmm.
so if you have that kind of guilt, right, around that, or you are really just trying to survive. Some of us are still out here grinding, trying to figure it out. How do you go about giving yourself the permission to say, listen, I'm going to go get my nails done, right?
Well,
Uh,
it's not, I don't think self-care is just about getting your nails done.
okay,
I
come
think
on now,
that's,
talk to me. What is
I
it?
mean, I said that about getting a pedicure because it was able to help me breathe a little better, to recognize the fact that I needed to stop.
Okay, all right,
Stop being so intense, right? And so, I mean, I could get to a point sometimes I'm so much on task that
yeah,
I get oblivious. I really don't know what to do next. I start to have like what I call a mental breakdown, a mental and emotional kind of like, where am I? You know how I was. I
yeah,
was
yeah,
looking
yeah.
like I just don't know what to do next. What do I do next? And
Right.
that's when I'm looking at you like that with like a deer in the headlights. That's when I know, okay, I need to stop and do something here.
It's time. You
Because
need to take a
you
break.
don't have answers because you're looking at me like, what is wrong with you?
I wasn't looking at you that way.
And for you, you get irritable, you get grumpy
Oh well,
when
wait.
you don't take care of yourself.
You will put all my business
Yes, I
out
am because
there.
irritableness is a part of not taking
I
care of
do
you.
get grumpy. I'm just gonna keep it real, right?
And I'll be
I
like,
get a little difficult to deal with.
mhm.
But so can we talk about types of self-care? Because you mentioned because you did a whole ebook about or e-course about self-care. What is it called?
It's called the Rhythm Centered Life.
Say that one more time for the people in the back seats.
In the back seats.
Yeah.
The Rhythm Centered Life. And
Okay.
soon it will be on our website as a PDF where, of course, where you can actually begin to do some self-evaluation and purchase. So yeah, it
Yeah.
will be on our
Yeah.
website.
So cool. But
But the
so what are some types of self-care like that we need to be aware of and think about in that regard? How do
mhm.
we what kinds of care do we need?
So yeah, I think emotional self-care is very important to notice when you feel, how you feel, why you feel that way, and what you need to do about it. I get
Emotional self-care.
overwhelmed really easily as an introvert. If I have too many things on my mind and I don't write them down or I don't put them somewhere and compartmentalize, I'm done.
They all run together.
Yeah.
So emotional
And
self-care, what I mean, so what is emotional self-care?
uh, you want me to give a working definition of it, I
No, I mean
guess.
like how do you care for your emotions? Because because
Well,
because we live in a society where we don't
mhm,
often even recognize our emotions, right? You
yeah.
know, we're kind of we go from one thing to the next, boom, 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 and we don't notice how we feel. Matter of fact, often we try to numb how we feel with
Hmm.
food, with can we keep it real with alcohol and drugs, with
Yeah.
whatever, right? We try to escape with television. Can we
Hmm.
keep it 100? Television is a huge emotional escape. So, because I don't have to feel what I'm feeling, because I get to deal with whatever it is that's happening on the screen, to the characters that are presented to me.
Right.
Um,
I think it's being able to notice when you need to nurture yourself. Like I said,
okay.
noticing when you feel like you're being pulled in too many directions, and notice how you feel and why you feel the way you do.
Mm,
When you know why you're feeling a certain way, and then you can begin to cope with something differently because you're coping with it the wrong way or having the wrong approach, then maybe that is what begins to orient you or help you to take care of yourself a little better. So
no,
it
wait a
might look
minute.
like for me, hold on,
Okay.
let me finish my whole
Please,
paragraph.
please do. Please do. My bad.
Because I mean, journaling, sometimes it might just be a mental dump. It might just be me picking up a pen and writing in a notebook, or it might be me voice recording and just talking until I finally get to the meat of what's going on with me and noticing myself, right? Am I angry? And sometimes it takes you talking to yourself and talking through something before you even recognize, wow, that's anger, or I'm pissed off at somebody.
Mm,
I just did that the other day with someone. I was talking to them and I realized I had some unforgiveness in my heart. And that was blocking me, man. I mean, that's emotional self-care.
mm. So what did you do about it?
Well, as a spiritual person, which is spiritual self-care is a point of it too. Sometimes it's just being able to acknowledge it, pass it on to your higher power, God for me, and just being able to admit it that, this isn't helping me. So maybe I need to let it go.
Mm,
And then letting go might be, me journaling to myself why I was mad or why I was unforgiving.
mm,
Going and apologizing to that person or addressing it with them. Um, Letting them know that this is the block that was between us. I'm sorry, but here's how I felt about it. So it might be being honest too.
Okay.
right?
Okay. Well, I mean, and can I just so like, can we talk to the dudes or talk, because what's true is that
The
most of us
dudes.
guys we're not gonna
We're
journal,
not gonna do that.
we're
We're
not
not
gonna
gonna
journal,
apologize to anybody
and
either.
we're not gonna go and hug it out. You know,
True.
I mean, we probably should, right? I mean, that would probably be wise. But what's true is we're likely going to. So so if you don't have those kinds of things at your resource at the ready, what do you do?
Mhm.
One of the things I think, one of the ways that guys sometimes, especially, deal with their emotional situation is through physical release,
Mhm.
right? So so maybe what that looks like is I go to the gym and I pump some iron,
I
right?
thought you were gonna say sex or something, but sometimes I'm in it too.
Yeah, that was my next session. Yeah, and then my sometimes is I need to have some sex. Sex is a
Yeah, but
release,
sometimes
right?
sex can still be a numb out and an easy way out of it.
Well, I mean, anything could be, right?
Anything?
But I mean,
And
but at the very least, if I start to release those sorts of things, right? I start to get engage myself physically, then eventually I can kind of take some of the steam off, and I might be able to eventually sit down
that's
and talk
true.
about it.
To sit down and be vulnerable, yeah, and be
To talk
intimate, and
about it
that's
when,
true. Guys do approach that in a very different way, so I can agree with that.
yeah, I mean, most of us are not going to go get a cup of tea, sit down with our journal and write. I mean, it's just not,
You make it
not
sound like it's
right about
something
our
wrong
feelings.
with it. Don't do
No, there's
that.
nothing wrong with it. It's just not typical male culture, right?
Not male culture. I get
Not
it.
typical male
What
culture.
about mindfulness and meditation? Do guys do that? Like, do guys take a minute to meditate? I don't know. You tell me.
I
I
do.
don't know.
I
Yeah.
do.
How do you meditate?
Well, what's interesting is that often it doesn't look like traditional. I don't sit with my legs crossed and go, I don't do that. But what I do is oh man, growing up in my household, we had a basketball hoop in my backyard,
Yeah.
right? And I would take my dad put that up, and I would take the basketball, and if there was something on my mind or work to work through, I would go and just shoot. Boom.
Hmm.
I'd just go shoot
Hmm.
baskets, and just kind of play a little bit of ball. And what I found was that practice actually followed me. I found myself doing that when I was in college. I found myself
Hmm.
doing that after college as a young adult. And even now, if I don't have a hoop available to me, which is difficult for me these days. So I don't do it here in my current
Okay.
configuration. But the other thing that I have done in the past is walk. Like, I love to walk, right?
Hmm.
So go, and especially walk by some water.
That's
I
very
do that now
meditative.
even. Like, there's
That's
a there's
good.
yeah, there's a path. There's a river that runs through the campus where I go to school, and so sometimes I'll
Hmm.
go down there, and especially if there's something on my mind that I need to think about, meditate about, pray about, right? I go and I
Hmm.
walk, and just spend time engaging in conversation with myself about whatever
Yeah,
it is that's going on,
that's
and
good.
kind of freeing myself from whatever it is that the difficulties that I'm experiencing, and those kind of having heart to heart. I consider that meditation on some.
Meditation.
Yeah, one of the
Hmm.
rules about meditation is that there is no rules. Where meditation is concerned, whatever works for you is what works for you.
Hmm.
So yeah. So anyway, so those are my thoughts. Thanks for asking.
Yeah,
Uh,
nature can be a good way of deciding that you're going to meditate or take your mind off of the things that are stressful and bother you. So I
yeah,
think that's a really good way to kind of take care of yourself and kind of notice you and how you're
yeah.
feeling.
Being out of nature is huge for me. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
really good.
So you said that there is uh emotional self-care. There
Hmm.
is spiritual self-care, spending time with
Hmm.
your higher power.
Or
God is your leader.
um, choosing to read something spiritual, choosing to
Okay.
pray, choosing to talk to a spiritual advisor. It could It could be, just doing some spiritual exercises or a devotional or some kind of program that will help you to kind of notice how you need to take care of yourself spiritually.
Yeah. Every morning I have
Reading,
a
reading.
quiet time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing
Quiet
this
time.
since like
Hmm.
1982.
Yeah.
Well, that dates me, doesn't it? But every morning I have a quiet time. And it's just
Hmm.
it's not like a, a church service. I just sit
Hmm.
alone with God and I may read something. Typically that would be the Bible for me. I may listen to a message from someone who I trust for a few minutes. And often it's 10, 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes, if I really got some stuff I need to work through, it's long.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
yeah, but being able to pull aside and care for myself spiritually is absolutely critical.
Yeah, and physical self-care is really good too because I
Mm,
remember when you and I were going through a period where we were trying to figure out we were turned vegetarian. We were trying to figure out where we're getting enough protein, and that was a
pescatarian
big deal.
too.
And oh my God, we did pescatarian, and
Hmm.
and we were doing it for good reasons. But if you don't really know what you're doing in terms of the level of protein and amounts of protein you need, and how often during the day, and everybody's body is different. I mean, that could be a big deal,
Yeah,
and cause you to not really take care of your body very well.
eating right.
Um, Eating right.
So
Hmm.
that's
Having
part
the
of
right
physical
nutrition.
self-care. That's part of physical self-care.
And vitamins, yeah.
Yeah,
And
getting the
then
right
there's like
nutrition.
sleeping at night, right? And then there's
Sleeping.
like
Oh man, sleep is huge.
sleep is huge.
Mm,
So there's several different ways that physical self-care comes into play.
hydration.
Hydration.
Yeah, getting enough water. Not,
Hmm.
not soda, water, you know, getting enough exercise as well. Going
Vitamins,
to the gym
minerals.
and getting it
Hmm.
getting it in, that's huge.
Hmm.
And it centers you. Okay, so we said that there is emotional self-care, there's spiritual self-care, there's physical self-care. Uh,
Hmm.
would you say
Social.
that there's mental self-care?
Yeah, there's mental. Yeah, there's mental self-care.
Tell me about mental.
Very important. I think
How do
mental
you care for your
self-care is more
mind?
about, yeah, how to care for your mind, I think that kind of comes in with emotional, so they can kind of overlap. Um, but mental has to do because you can get mentally exhausted. How do you get mentally exhausted, Tim?
How do I get mentally exhausted?
Yeah, does it happen for you? Or maybe not. No,
Well,
stop.
exhaustion sometimes happens emotionally for me, but like mental self-care for me looks like this. Um, so so being in a position where okay, so I watch and this I'm still working on this, folks. I'm not there yet. But watching what I allow into my mind,
Mhm.
and how I think about it. So like for some reason this weekend, I'm telling on myself before Jen tells on me. I was watching on YouTube videos about people who had been arrested unjustly by the
Mm.
police. And I started to notice I got a little angry, about that. Just and as well, I think you should be angry about people who get
Mhm.
mistreated by the police unfairly. Now, obviously, that's not everybody on the planet, and those are isolated, for the most part, isolated incidents. I believe. I don't think most police officers are that way. I've had opportunity to work with a lot of them, and I know them personally. And most of them are just trying to do their job and get home safe. The vast majority of them, but yeah, there are those who are
Mhm.
not doing that, who are up to no good, as in any profession. There are counselors who are up to no good,
Mhm.
So, but the point is that I was kind of binge watching some of that, and it was really impacting me mentally and my mindset. I typically try to keep a positive perspective on everything. because I think that's what needs to happen. But my mindset actually got really pretty clouded, pretty dark, because of what I was exposing myself to mentally. Um,
Yes. So gratitude is very important, being able to
yeah,
recognize. Gratitude is an excellent practice for mental self-care.
exactly.
Also, talking to a counselor or talking to anyone that might help you to kind of sort through your thoughts and
Mhm.
feelings, actually.
Which is an interesting thing because to think about when we think about self-care, we think about something I do for myself by myself. But self-care
Hmm.
though doesn't have to be done alone, right? It can be
Mm-mm.
done and probably should be on some level done in conjunction with other people. Isolation is not good for us as human beings. So yeah, so mental health, mental self-care, you say looks like gratitude. And we talked about gratitude a little bit last week, quite a bit last week actually. That having a practice of gratitude actually really does help significantly. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so what have we left out? Are there other aspects of self-care that we've
Well, I think there's social self-care.
social self-care?
Um,
Oh, say more about that.
um, I think social self-care is mostly about like who you spend time with, how
Mm-hmm.
you do it.
Mm.
Do you isolate? Are you lonely? Do you do something about it?
Wow.
Um, yeah, so it's being able to kind of notice all those things.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting, what they say is that who you hang out with, who you connect with, who you are connected to has a huge impact on your life.
Hmm.
I've often told clients that I can look at who you're spending time with and tell you what the next 10 years of your life is going to look like.
Mm-mm.
And so ultimately, being able to find healthy people who themselves engage in self-care, right?
Hmm.
Engage in healthy practices generally, is gonna lead to your own health and well-being,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a time in my life where I would spend time with people who didn't treat me very well because I was people pleaser.
Mm,
So because I was a people pleaser,
mm,
um, I wasn't around good people.
right.
And it was always about what those people wanted from me, out of me,
Mm,
from me, and I just made bad decisions because it was always about them. So
mm,
I think being able to kind of notice, self-care in the form that you're around people who think positive,
mm,
people who are for you and not against you, people who are
mm,
not jealous and envious of you,
mm,
and being able to have an awareness and a discernment about who those people are and what that looks like.
mm.
So,
Yeah, the old folk used to everybody talk about heaven and going there. you know, back
so
in the
your self-care, yeah, around people is pretty important.
It's huge. That's absolutely critical. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I just pose a question um
Mm-hmm.
in the time that we have left. I wanted to ask about um so we're the psychology of everyday success, right? What does self-care have to do with success? Oh, we got a comment from Kim. Kim Powell. She
Mm-hmm.
said self-care equals being intentional about your environment and your influencers. Woo!
Mm-hmm.
You go, Kim.
Thanks, Kim. Intentional.
Absolutely. Being intentional about your environment and your influencers. Wow. So yeah, who's
Ooh.
in your environment?
Mm-hmm.
Who's influencing you?
Who's
Mm,
influencing me? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't let anybody into my what do you call it? My 5x7. I've heard it called a 5x7. Like your 5x7 is who you allow into your inner circle.
Your frame, yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
and do you let everybody into that or do you are you careful with that? You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Even in terms of sharing, and do you share your secrets with people who are unhealthy? Watch out because
Ooh,
that might bring some damage later.
do you have secrets? somebody said
You have secrets.
you're only as sick as your secrets. Secrets.
Yeah. Well,
So
and not even secrets, but the
private
things that are
moments.
to you, your private moments. Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. That makes sense. That makes sense. Um, yeah,
Hmm.
Daryl said your personal space. That's good. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, Kim says, I like that, Jennifer. My 5x7. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
my
got to
five by
steal that
seven.
one. Yeah. Rita says, it is quite a challenge to be brave enough to explore and know when to connect with or disconnect from the people in your environment. Woo!
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. She said a mouthful there, didn't she? Because
Yes.
sometimes you have to disconnect. Mm. You got
Hmm.
to say, you know what? I got nothing but love for you, but I'm gonna love you from a distance.
It does take bravery, though. Yeah. It
Yeah.
takes bravery, but it also, I mean, that's what self-care is all about, right? It's about thinking about your priority, what's important to you, and then doing something about it. And that's that whole level of awareness where you got to
Yeah.
stop and think and recognize.
Exactly. Exactly. So
Hmm.
yeah. So that's absolutely critical
And one of the things I say, what is meaningful, needed, and
and
necessary in this
necessary.
moment?
Yeah. What is
I
meaning?
think
What
that's
is
my five
true
by seven.
is
Is
necessary.
it meaningful? Is it needed? Is it necessary?
Mm.
And today when I went and got that pedicure, it was very necessary.
Right.
It really was, because I was just tired of my feet being the way that they were, and it was getting me down. And I had, a couple of weeks where I had gone through that, and I mean, but I had the money, and I said, you know what, I'm making a sacrifice. I have to do this, so I did it.
Yeah. Kim said, out of a long handled spoon. Yeah. That's a good point. Um, Yeah, yeah. So is it meaningful? Is it needed? Is it necessary? The other question is, are some of the is everybody in my 5x7, as Jen says, meaningful,
Mhm.
needed, and necessary?
Yes.
Are are you empowering me to do better in my life, or are you pulling me down? And so how do you let me just ask this question, because can we keep it real? How do you disinvite
Oh.
somebody out of your life? How do you you've identified this person as toxic, they're
How
in
you
your
set a
five by
boundary.
seven, right? And you need to release them to the
Mhm.
universe.
Ooh, yes.
Right? How do you do that? How do you disinvite them?
First of all, I tell them what I allow and what I don't,
Okay.
right?
All right.
And this is not serving me well,
Mm,
right? That's a term that sometimes people use when something's not for them,
okay.
right? This is not serving me well. So I'm
Right.
going to take a break
Mm,
from this relationship, and then
mm,
I disconnect however I need to do this. So it might mean blocking somebody, right? If they call you a lot.
okay.
No, I'm serious though.
Yeah.
These are some true steps, right?
For real,
It
for real.
might be noticing that yeah, I can't talk to this person this week. I'm taking a break from them.
Mm,
I think Facebook even has a take a break kind of.
take a break. Yeah.
I need to stay off that person's page for a while.
Right. Yeah, Daryl said yes, boundaries are necessary. Oh my goodness.
Very.
Meaningful boundaries are meaningful, needed, and necessary for sure, Daryl.
Yes, they are.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. So what are you saying, Jen, is you just take a direct approach. You just say,
Mhm.
hey, got nothing but love for you, and uh deuces.
Deuces.
See ya. Wouldn't want to be you.
Deuces.
Is that kind
Yeah.
of how you do it?
I mean, I try to do it politely, but if that person isn't very nice to me and being very kind in that moment, I forget nice. I just do what's best for me in the moment. Yeah.
Kim says again, when you are intentional and stand for what you're about, their
Hmm.
energy won't be fed and they will drift away. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
And
they'll have
Teresa
no
says,
choice.
says
Hmm.
I've had to disconnect without an announcement to the one
Yes.
you're disconnecting them from.
Hmm.
Is this okay?
It's okay. It's totally okay.
Whatever works. You know what I'm saying? And because some people will, you tell them, hey, I'm trying to disconnect, and
Hmm.
they want to continue to try to stay connected, especially if they're pretty toxic. You know, if they're not well, sometimes
Mm.
I have to show you in ways that I can't tell you. Oh, how you doing, Bishop Singleton? He says neglect
Hmm.
in an area of self-care can adversely affect other areas of one's life. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Affects the whole picture, right?
The
Hmm.
whole thing, man. The whole thing. So yeah, so it's absolutely critical that we take care of ourselves. Hello. Yeah. So yeah, so
So yeah, let's talk about there's this piece called Sensory Rest, and it's in
okay,
this book
say more.
that I think you've read a book about rest, and I've read a book. There's so many books out
Oh
there
yeah.
about rest, and I'll put a couple in the comments later.
Hmm.
But sensory rest is very important. So sensory rest is about all those five senses that we have, right? And then
Mm.
being able to notice how we are um, able to what do you call it? Like how you're able to kind of notice music. Like is it
Mm.
making you smile? Is it making you feel
Mm.
good? Are you dancing, right? That's
Mm.
being able to hear things well through your ears.
Yeah.
It could be something beautiful that you're looking at,
Mm.
something creative that you're making, right? All
Mm.
of those have ways of helping someone to do something that's giving good sight to the eyes,
Yeah. Yeah.
or smells, right?
It smells.
Being able to do some aromatherapy and things
Okay.
like that.
What you
So
see.
sensory rest is a good way to take care of yourself as well.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
love that idea. It reminds me of a saying I heard a while back, and it said, "We should work like we don't need the money, love like we've never been hurt,
Mm.
and dance like nobody's watching."
Dance like nobody's watching. Yeah.
Yeah, and dance
Yeah.
like nobody's watching. Kim says, "Sounds like a bliss snap."
A
Absolutely.
blue snap. Excuse me one second.
We're trying to get to the whole bliss snap situation. Absolutely. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so so ultimately, so one of the things we talked about in the past is like a social media fast,
Hmm.
right? Which can in some ways like uh actually kind of take you away, clear your mind, so you're not receiving all those kinds of messages, bombarded with things all day, every day, that that kind of prevent you from being clear
Hmm.
about
Yeah.
what you think, feel, believe, that kind of thing.
I think one of the quickest way to kind of increase your passions or like your ability to be able to notice someone else besides yourself, because
Right.
sometimes we can get so self-absorbed, we kind of miss
Mm,
what it means to take care of yourself. And
yeah.
sometimes that's engaging in acts of kindness towards other people.
Mm,
I remember I was so frustrated with myself and going through a season of just feeling like I couldn't find my passion and
yeah.
whatever. And I remember praying about it, and I just heard God say, serve. And I
Serve.
started reaching out and just helping
Wow.
other people and complimenting them and, giving them, doing something kind for them, asking them how could I help them, reaching
Mm,
out. And before I knew it, I was really in my passion and feeling good about me.
mm,
And sometimes it really just involves like noticing other people and being kind. And
mm.
it doesn't look like self-care right away,
Okay.
but it can really just change your whole orientation and
Mm,
help you feel good about what you're doing. Can also
absolutely.
bring you in touch with really other good people who are doing the same, who have similar
Good stuff.
passions. So that's really good too.
Well, Jen, can you talk just for a little bit about life rhythm?
Rhythm, life
Yeah.
rhythm.
And
I think we can talk about it.
okay,
So
let's talk
remember
about it.
when a little while ago when we moved, we were just starting our relationship out,
Yeah.
and rhythm got a little confusing because I had just moved to Texas, and Tim was going 100 miles, 150 miles an hour. And I knew, like, okay, this is my boyfriend. Thank God I have my own place. But
Right.
I moved there to Texas, and I was just literally like, he is going way too fast for me to catch up with him. And what did I say to you, Tim?
You're going too fast.
Slow down, brother.
Well,
Is it really
you
that
talked
serious?
about balance actually.
Oh yeah, we
That
started.
I had none, right?
Yeah, and your rhythm was like
Hmm.
150 literally every day. You
Yeah.
were like the road runner, and I was like, I can't do this. I
Yeah.
just can't.
I was like, go, 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 go,
Um,
go, go, collapse. And then
yeah,
get up
and the
and go, go,
collapse
go,
is
go, go,
what you
go,
did
collapse.
every night, and I was
Yeah.
like, this is not how people live. It's
Not
not
healthy.
normal.
No, not at all.
But I mean, you heeded and you listened, and I think that was the good part. We kind of felt like, where do we meet each other mid ground? And I think
Yeah.
rhythm began to take on like going to, it was like, well, Jen, what do you like to do? And with Tim, what do you like to do? I don't think you had really considered things that you like to do
No.
a lot. And
Right.
I joined you with them, and it might have been like walking through the park, doing some walks together. It might have been like going, I loved cafes, so it was joining each other at cafes
Sure.
and doing cafes together. It was
Well,
listening to music and just playing it in the house, no
yeah.
TV,
There you go.
things like that.
At one point, we developed a Sabbath.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the Sabbath was so neat.
A
And
Sabbath.
what was the Sabbath? How did you practice
It
it?
was just a day of rest. So it
Yeah,
was a
so what
day
did you
when
do?
we didn't adult, we didn't do all kinds of crazy things. No meetings,
Hmm.
appointments, none of that. We just rested and engaged in self care. And that I think was kind of my official introduction to self care. That's where kind of the journey started for me. Because
Yeah.
yeah, before I knew her, I was like, oh my God, we got to get
It
it
was
done.
pretty
We need self
special
care.
too, because I think it was good to kind of notice that yeah, I had never practiced Sabbath before I met you. And I
Hmm,
just like the idea of being able to pull away and read and
hmm,
make time for reading and pull away from social media, kind of just notice myself, journal, like take care
hmm.
of me. It really preserved my energy. It gave me a lot of energy for the week. We would do it on Saturdays or Sundays, and it sometimes it involved connecting with other people, and I really love that. I really love
Mm,
connecting.
absolutely. Daryl said, Amen. I get that. And you and Jen are so opposite, but that's what complements the relationship. Yeah, I agree. We tend to help
Yeah.
complement each other. And then Kim says, we just had one of those days. Oh, okay, cool. Woosah. Absolutely.
Yes.
Sabbath,
You're able to
woosah,
breathe
whatever you
again.
call it.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
necessary.
woosah.
Yeah, and Daryl said again, Jen, you helped me learn about the Sabbath. It's so comforting and needed many,
Many
many times.
times.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful construct, concept. So
But we had to learn that because I tell you, it was like,
yeah,
you're my best friend. I like being with you, but
yeah,
this has to change.
we gotta slow down.
And where can we figure it out, meet each other
Exactly.
mid ground? And I think that's where rhythm happened.
Comes
Rhythm
in, yeah.
happened with
Well,
noticing what we both needed, right?
right.
Yeah.
Well, our time is actually that we set aside for this is kind of up. Is there any more, Jen, that you wanted to add that I don't want to just cut things off if you
I
had some
think
more
so. I
questions?
think we're going to talk about it in our video that we'll have next
Okay.
weekend. We're going to be sharing on self-care. So listen in and hear all the ways. And I'll put some links in the comments here,
Thanks.
just
Yeah,
so people can read and notice.
absolutely. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you guys.
joining in and being a part of our little
We
discussion
appreciate
here.
you.
Yeah, we'll do this again next Sunday. It is my dad used to say, "If the good Lord is willing and the creek don't
Creek
rise."
don't rise.
Y'all have a good week. We'll talk soon.